Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Warhammer the Old World's Matched Play Guide. Now this is a review copy for the Warhammer the Old World Rank and Flank Fantasy Battle game, and will be one of the last Games Workshop reviews on this channel. If you are looking for reviews in the future, including the reviews of the new model kits for this army, you need to go over to the GMGW channel, which is linked on the main page for this channel. And yeah, all that stuff's gonna be there in the future. I am pretty excited about this book because it's gonna, I hope, settle some of the turmoil about how to play Warhammer the Old World officially. And of course, we'll then give something for people that want to run their own events, sort of like, you know, standard baseline to run off of. I will say, going through this isn't as definitive as what some people might have hoped for. It's actually more of a catch-all of ideas and conventions rather than a singular official way to play. I personally think that's a good thing. But if you were looking for a match play guide along the lines of a Warhammer 40,000 or Warhammer Age of Sigmar match play book, this ain't it. This is more of an advice column with multiple ways to run and play events, and kind of a distillation of about 40 years worth of Warhammer stuff into this, 50-page softcover book. So what do we got here? Well, we've got the match play scenarios, we've got army composition rules, some rules for terrain, and then secondary objective rules for double events, an Alliance of Warlords, which is a sort of like teams tournament, and then additional rules for secret objectives on top of that. None of this is a single way to play the game. All of these are pick what you like to form the event that you want to run with Warhammer miniatures. And of course, all of this only really will apply to official Games Workshop events. You don't have to run your event with this, and you're free to take the game and do whatever you want with it when you run tournaments. This is something that the Warhammer the Old World players have been asking for, though, and that means that, you know, they've delivered. They've delivered on the promise of here's some advice. So we start off with what do you need to do and run an event? It's pretty simple. You need some armies, you need those guides, you need a battlefield, some terrain, some gaming accessories for each of the players for the number of players that you're planning on hosting. Pretty simple stuff. I do love that they didn't show gaming mats here. They showed a flocked table with some very old GW kit terrain on it, which makes me really happy. You need organizers, refs, you need a spare player if somebody should drop or you have an uneven number of people, you need attendees, and then there's a little code of conduct blurb here as well. There's basically a single rubric for how you score. You get tournament points based upon either a crushing defeat to a crushing victory. 6 is total. A draw is worth 3. And depending upon the game size, your margin of victory is going to give you how many points you score. So a draw would be anywhere from 0 to 100s. And then your VP differential is what you're scoring here. So it's not just, did I score 2,000 victory points because I wiped out my opponent? If they scored 1,700 in the process, we only have a margin of victory of 300. That's still a draw. I got to get over that 301 before I get to a minor victory, even if I table my opponent. So how you play and what you play for, how you conserve your own troops matters in this. And that push-pull of your margin of victory is going to basically determine how good a general you are over the course of the thing. Your first tiebreaker is VicPs, so you rank people based upon the total number of victory points they've earned. Second tiebreaker is VPs won for secondaries, and then third is enemy generals slain. How many generals have they killed across the course of the event? So people with even numbers of tournament points that are the same at the end of the tournament, those are the 3 criteria to break the ties. Some pairing rules, and then army composition rules. And this is really what people are waiting for. Tell me how to do my armies so that I can't skew. Because skewing happens whenever you put like any type of game, but in particular Games Workshop games, whenever you give them to the public, they run them to the logical conclusion, especially if you play them on places where you don't even need miniatures, like Tabletop Simulator, or if you just print your own and you don't have a budget. So 3 ways here. The first one's open war. Just play with the rules as they're written. The second one's grand melee. Focuses on the infantry and not the characters and big units. And the restrictions here are you can't spend more than 25% of your army's total on a single character or unit. Your army can include any number of level 1 or 2 wizards, but only 0 to 1 level 3 per 1,000 points and 0 to 1 level 4 per 2,000 points. So you can still have a level 4 and 2 level 3s. It doesn't seem like, a 2,000 point game doesn't seem like that's that big of a restriction. I would have just made 0 to 1 level 4 per 2,000 points, level 3 to 4 per 2,000 points. That seems like an actual restriction. And then combined arms is you can't, it's a rule of 3. You can't skew a single unit type. So there's a maximum of 3 for any individual character type, maximum of 4 for any core units, maximum of 3 for any special units, maximum of 2 for rare and mercenary units. So for example, if you're fielding an Empire of Man army using the Grand Army composition list, you can include 0 to 1 unit of veteran state troops per 1,000 points, but you can field as many units of free company as you wish in the standard rules. When writing your Western list under combined arms, you include 0 to 4 units of free company militia. The limit on veteran state troops remains unaffected. So basically, if there's already a cap, you don't add one, but you have these new caps for things you can normally take an unlimited number of. These numbers increase by 1 for every full 1,000 points of game size above 2,000 points, and units taken as detachments do not count towards these limits. So yeah, so detachments can be still skewed and maxed out as much as you want. Some lovely painting, and that's it. That's all the composition rules. No rule of 3, no nothing. Just, hey, here's 2 minor tweaks. If you don't want giant characters, don't take giant characters. If you don't want people to skew, cap the skews. So sorry, Dan, you can't take all your Pumbas. No 16 Racer Gores as core choices. People didn't know what to do with that. 16 core Racer Gores was a problem apparently. One of the last events my buddy Dan went to. And then some general guidelines for terrain, how much terrain, how big it should be, and then our scenarios. And there are 6 scenarios in here. There's various different game lengths you can have in a tournament. You just pick one, either fixed for 6 rounds, random, where you start rolling at the end of, I think it's round 4, no, end of round 5. Roll d6 for each round after that and add the total of the result. If it's a 10 or more, then the battle ends. So at the end of round 5, roll d6, roll 5 plus, the battle ends, then a 4 plus, then a 3 plus, then a 2 plus. Breakpoint, you take your total army's unit strength divided by 4, and if you ever go below that, your army is now broken and the game ends. And then time limit, just your round goes as many hours or minutes as you want it to go. VPs, so common VP objectives. All scenarios use these. Dead or fled, king is dead, trophies of war, special features, and breaking the enemy. So if there's any special features on the table, you get the points for those. Typically the secondaries are going to be those. Breaking the enemy. Game ends if you use the breakpoint army, get an additional 500 victory points. And then, yeah, dead or fled, king is dead, trophies of war is banners, kill the general, and then dead or fled units are worth their values depending on if they were dead or they fled. All right, it's Field of Glory. It's pitch battle. It's classic pitch battle. 12-inch deployment zones run towards each other. This scenario may use the baggage train, special features, the domination and or strategic locations, secondary objectives. So these are basically, well, we'll talk about special objectives, I guess, now. Baggage train is, you make a baggage train miniature, you either control it or destroy it. If you control it at the end of a game, it's worth 100 VPs. That's by having a unit of core, at least 10 guys, or sorry, 10 unit strength within 6 of it. If you destroy it, a unit with unit strength 5 or more can attempt to destroy the baggage train by moving into base contact in remaining moves. Once unit's in base contact with it, it begins the process of destroying it. While unit's in base contact, they cannot shoot and can only cast spells with a ranged combat or self. If at the beginning of the next turn start phase they're unengaged in there, the baggage train is destroyed. So you have to come and like rescue it basically after it gets engaged. And like I said, if you control at the end of the game, it's 100. If you don't, it's 250. If it's destroyed, sorry, it's 250. And then special features basically are a piece of terrain, like an idol, idol, a gork, something like that. Both players place down 1. And they get a D6 unusual property, either a tingle in the air, so magic resistance -3. If you're in control, if like you control that feature. Honor thy forebears, you get hatred of all enemies if you control that feature, and an inspirational sight, you get unbreakable if you control that feature. And they're worth, like I said, an extra bunch of victory points if you control them, which is over here, special features. The player that controls the end of the battle will win a victory point bonus as described in that special feature. So for these ones, it's going to be 200 VPs if you control it. Domination's table quarters. If you have the most unit strength in a table quarter basically at the end of the game, then it's worth an additional 50 VPs. If a player controls a quarter uncontested completely, they get 100 VPs for it. And then strategic locations are 40 mil objective markers. It's circles from Age of Sigmar and 40K. Basically, if you're within 3 of that feature, if you're within 6 of that feature, then you can control it. You have to be in strength of at least 10 or more. At the end of the player, for each marker player, end of the round, or player turn, you get 30 VPs if you control it and your opponent doesn't. Yeah. So either 3 across the middle, 4 across the center. And those are your secondaries. Yay! King of the Hill. Hill feature in the middle. In this scenario, Hill can be controlled at the end of the turn by a single core. It's within 9 of the center. And has a unit strength of 10 or more. It's not fleeing and not stupid. If 2 or more eligible units are within 9, if the 2 or more are equally close to it, then the unit with the higher unit strength controls it. So basically, if you're contested, then you take whoever has the highest. However, if 2 more equal have the same unit strength, then neither control it. It's just contested. Vanguard moves cannot be made in this scenario because you're running uphill. And then victory points at the end of your turn, you get 100 victory points if you control it. And this scenario can include baggage trains and or special features, but not secondary objectives or quadrants. Drawn battle lines. You get the 2 like A and B deployment zones. And then game length is going to be either fixed turns, random, as described on page 18. And these are just recommended. You could still pick breakpoint if you want, or time limit. This one has reserves. And the reserves are not deployed at the start of the battle. Instead, they can enter play during the compulsory move subphase. When they arrive, the reserves may enter the battlefield as reinforcements from any point on a battlefield edge within their own deployment zone. Before deploying their army, each player rolls a d6. If they roll a 1, both players must choose a single unit from the army whose infantry or cavalry to be held in reserve. Secondary objectives, you can use strategic locations 3, and may include the domination and or baggage train ones. And then close quarters, this one has like a 6-inch flank reduction. It's fixed or breakpoint as they recommend. And then bottleneck, there's cliffs on either side. As such, no units, including fleeing units or those arriving from reserve, can enter or leave from the sides unless they have ethereal or fly. And this scenario can use strategic locations and domination. So basically the big add for this one is the flanks are closed off. Chance encounter, it's quarters deployment zones, but you have like a staggered deployment. Once the battlefield's been set up, the winner of the roll-off chooses their deployment zone. Either A1, A2, B1, or B2 as their primary. If the winner of the roll-off selects deployment zone A, then of course you're going to be in B's and vice versa. So you get A1s and A2s because you're kind of like, you're spread out when you attack each other. And then players deploy their armies using the alternated units method on page 17. If the winner of the roll-off selects a deployment zone marked B, then their opponent will be in the opposite one marked B. Game length, this is random game length. Breakpoint is described on page 18 if you want some suggestions. There's no special rules. And you could use, the scenario must include special features secondary and may include domination or baggage train because you're basically mixed amongst each other. And then encirclement, if the tables have been set up by the organizer, if players set up their own terrain, place scatter terrain is described on page 16. Deployment, once the battlefield has been set up, the winner of the roll-off chooses the deployment zones A or B, as shows in the map below, and they're basically like off-center with 12-inch flanks. There's no special rules, and it can use strategic locations 4, and may include baggage trains and or special features. So it's just like a staggered deployment in corners across from each other. And that's it. That's the core stuff everybody was looking for, including the secondaries. So that's the recommended match play, guys. It's not prescribed. You make a bunch of choices inside it. It's very dealer's choice as to what kind of event you want to run. And then on top of that, we get a beautiful color section and rules for doubles events and multi-team weekends. Double events are great. I think the doubles events are one of the most fun places to play Warhammer. They're great for making new players get introduced to the hobby too. Very often we've done doubles events where like a veteran hobbyist will take someone under their wing. They'll each build a smaller army because that's more doable and achievable for a new hobbyist. So in this case, like 2,000 point armies. They'll do something where the Grand Alliance could ally, and then you do like a narrative weekend where they all play against each other. You have help on both sides. The games typically run pretty well. Yeah, and there's some rules, just some advice and rules considerations in what to do here. They give you some cool like missions, like this, like you're right head to head with each other and your reserves start staggering in. Forward battle lines, where like you start really close to each other, about 12 inches away. And then finally outposts, like a cool special feature in the middle that you're trying to take. Alliance of Warlords, again, this would be like you have like a Chaos Against Orcs weekend and stuff like that. And you get like a cool little bit of advice for running those. And then finally, some secret objective cards. These were great from Triumph and Treachery in Warhammer 8th. This was like a great team way of playing games. And even escalation events, like how do you run matches where you start at 1,000 points and end at 2,000 points. For secret objectives, it's when writing their muster list for a match play event, at which secret objectives are being used, each player must choose and list 6 of the 12 over the following pages. At the start of the game, each player must choose one of their secret objectives and make a note of it face down. At the end of the game, when calculating VPs, they reveal their secret. So basically, you make a deck of 6, and they get everything from like hold the line. You must have 2 of your units with a unit strength of 10 or more, not counting that the units that are fleeing are stupid, within your opponent's deployments at the end of the game, and you get an extra 75 VPs. Fire the artillery. You must cause enemy unit to fail a panic test and flee as a result of being shot with a war machine. If you fulfill, you get 100 extra points. So just fun little extras. And that's it. So what do I think? I think this was always what you were going to get for Warhammer the Old World. This is very much by the people that have played Warhammer for 30-ish years, for the people that have played Warhammer for 30-ish years, and it really does kind of protect, I think, against the idea that there's one right way to play Warhammer. Now, is that what the community was kind of wishing for, I feel like a little bit? That there was going to be a perfect balance game that came out of here, and that they were going to kind of treat it like a 40k and a Warhammer Age of Sigmar? I think a portion of them did, and I think a portion of them were kind of put off by that idea too. So this lands somewhere in the middle. I think you can make a relatively balanced experience out of this, but I think it still kind of maintains the essence of Warhammer, where you get random wacky terrain features, you get a bunch of tables to roll on for their effects, and you get modeling opportunities like things like baggage trains. My pony cart gets to come back. And that's important. That keeps Warhammer feeling Warhammer and feeling less like a simulation. Does it go far enough? I'm going to hazard that there's going to be a competitive opinion that it doesn't, because it's very cherry picking. But I think that's very much in the theme of what this game is. And I don't think that you were going to get it out of this design team in particular, and out of that particular stream of design studio at Games Workshop. So I'm happy with it. Are other people going to be happy with it? Probably not, but my Warhammer hobby is not a competitive Warhammer hobby at this point. I've been playing it for too long. And I just want to be able to put some cool models down and have hear the drums beat and the horns blow in the air. That's more my version of Warhammer. So thanks for workshopping this along. And like I said before, if you want to see the Grand Alliance Cathay review, that'll be on the same channel today, on the main channel. But you can head over to check out the model kits on the GMGW channel. And yeah, that's what I think. So thanks for watching. Thanks for workshopping this along. From myself, Ash.